All right, everybody. Good afternoon. We got to move quickly this week because the Seahawks play again in just a few days. And, well, actually, according to some people, there's a very good chance that this upcoming Thursday night game will not really matter all that much for the Seahawks. I still want to win it. I mean, there's a scenario where it does end up mattering. It's somewhat unlikely. And, I don't want to lose to the Bears. Like, that's just embarrassing. So, nevertheless, regardless of the fact that the game might not technically matter that much to our opportunity to make the playoffs, I still want to win it, and we got to move quickly if we're going to discuss the things that need to be discussed. So, we're going to open things up with Snap Count Monday like we often do. And on this Snap Count Monday, we have some notable data. I don't think there's anything here that is particularly shocking, but we go through it anyway. First of all, offensive snaps totaled 64. 64 offensive snaps. So we are just about to 1,000 on the season. So not bad. We've certainly seen worse. We have certainly seen much worse with this team in recent years. So decent rate. Running backs, Ken Walker played most of the game and then he got hurt. And don't know what's going on there. But at this point, I wonder if maybe the plan is just to put him on ice for the season and say, hey, next year, we'll try again next year. But just Indian burial ground season, I guess, right? It's just one of those seasons where you're on ancient Indian ground and nothing goes your way. So if he's not playing the next two games, wouldn't surprise me. And hopefully next year he can be healthier. But 38 snaps, so he did play a lot of the game. Charbonnet, 14 snaps. There was a significant portion of this game where people thought he was hurt because he wasn't on the field at all. Maybe he was. They didn't say anything. And one thing in this game that I appreciated was Kenny McIntosh actually got to play non-trivial snaps. And he actually did some things with those snaps. 12 snaps. Made some hay. So, okay. I don't mind taking that as a little bit of a positive right now. In a game where Walker and Charbonnet started the game, they both started the game available, McIntosh still got on the field some. So I don't know if maybe that represents the fact that Charbonnet was definitely hurt, but it's been very hard for McIntosh to get on the field in games where Walker and Charbonnet are both healthy. Worth noting. All right, so that's the running backs. Nothing radically surprising here, but maybe McIntosh's presence is welcome here. Wide receiver, we got DK Metcalf playing pretty much the whole game, 57 snaps. I mean, 3 catches, 0 in the second half. It's starting to... It reflects poorly on somebody. Maybe it's not him, but it reflects poorly on somebody that we find ourselves in that situation again because... I mean, we're at the point now where JSN clearly is a guy that opposing defenses should at least be aware of. Maybe they're not intimidated by him the way they're intimidated by Metcalf, but JSN is clearly a problem for opposing offenses. And he played about the same number of snaps and produced far more. Not even close. 100 yards from scrimmage. And that's with, like I said yesterday, the referees changing the rules right before the game started and made it so that it was legal to tackle JSN and push him and otherwise disturb him before the ball gets there. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about it anymore, but it is starting to become a little bit frustrating in a way that I don't think can just be brushed off. Tyler Lockett, 44 snaps, and he actually made a couple of catches in this game, I guess. So Lockett made his contribution. It's getting thin, but realistically, he's got 2 games left in his Seahawks career, so now would be a great time for him to have that last little push that he has towards relevancy, that last little push he has to give at the tail end of his career, because it's been a while since he's had a standout game. So 12 snaps for Bobo, and then nothing for anybody else. And, I mean, you can see why Lockett has to play as much as he does. If we had a little bit more sauce at receiver behind the top 3, Lockett would probably be playing very little. But I don't think there's anything on this team that is better than just letting Lockett play out the string and hoping that he can tap into his last bit of a nos. So, I mean, Bobo did make one catch in this game, I guess, but he's just far too limited a player. Not enough going on there for him to play big snaps. Tight end. We got Noah Fant playing a good chunk of the game, 46 snaps. Pharaoh Brown, 21. AJ Barner, 19. So, AJ Barner, which maybe isn't terribly surprising, has really become a part-time player with Noah Fant back, which is probably what he needs right now. I think it's probably a good thing. But it is pretty stark in a game like this. 64 snaps, and he's only on the field for 19. Pharaoh Brown, who has not really done much of anything this year, outsnaps him. I remain optimistic for AJ Barner's future, but right now this is probably in line with the role that he needs to occupy. And offensive line's real simple. Everybody played every snap. Cross, Tomlinson, Lucas, Lomia, Oluwatimi, they all played 64. The only other offensive lineman who played was Byron Murphy, and he's not an offensive lineman. He played one snap on the goal line. Didn't even work. But, yeah, pretty simple, which is good. And maybe that's part of the reason why they played okay. I think the offensive line actually played semi-passable football this week. So, hey, I'll take the victories where I can get them, because we didn't actually win the game. All right, now we jump on over to the defense. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. 66 snaps, so basically equilibrium, and we're now just breaking 1,000 on the defensive side of the ball. So, in this regard, decent work. We've seen years where the defense has played over 100 snaps more than the offense, so achieving equilibrium is notable. Okay, defensive line, again, I think that we're making it work about the best that we can. Nobody's playing more than 50 snaps. This was a very important game, and we were able to keep things relatively balanced. Leonard Williams, 49 snaps, leads the way. Jaron Reed, who played a great game, 40 snaps. Byron Murphy, 35, which is in line with, I think, what reasonable expectations should be right now. I think people forget how young Byron Murphy is. He's not prepared to play the number of snaps that some of these other players are playing. Now, he did miss almost a month of football earlier this year, but it looks like he's going to come in at just about 500 snaps on the season if he plays out the string, and I think that's probably a pretty good place to be for him. Little under half of the snaps on the season will probably be where he lands, and hey, the expectations are going to be really high next year, but for this year, I'm down with it. Obviously, people are frustrated with Murphy right now with justifiable reasons, but I think we're still going to a pretty good place with him. He may not be going to as good a place as some of the other players that we maybe could have taken at 16. I understand that, but I think he's good, and I think that people are letting his statistics get in the way of understanding that, when statistics are not really something that you use to evaluate interior defensive line play most of the time, especially with a guy this young. Now, the thing to note here is that we have clearly lost complete faith in everybody behind those top three guys. Jonathan Hankins, 12 snaps. Roy Robertson-Harris, 6 snaps. We traded for Roy Robertson-Harris, and here we are at the end of the season, an important game, and clearly we're basically saying we don't think he can play football. So I know some people defend Roy Robertson-Harris, but I'm sorry, he's a complete jag. You can't tell me he'd be playing 6 snaps out of 66 in a very important football game that came down to the wire if we thought he was any good. So I don't know what else to say except he doesn't need to be here next year. And honestly, Hankins is right behind him there. I don't think that there's much to say except he's just hit the age where he has very little left to give. He's had 1 or 2 decent games this year, maybe one genuinely good game, but we got to find another solution here. We're making it work mostly because we play 2 down linemen a lot. We play 2 down linemen a lot in Seahawks defensive football right now, and that comes with its own problems. But if we didn't do that, then we'd be leaning heavily on guys like Hankins and Harris. Linebacker, pretty simple. Jones played every snap. Tyrese Knight played 51 out of 66 snaps, so most of the game. Um, pretty understandable, pretty workable. Um, Vikings did throw the ball a pretty decent amount, and they did spread it out a pretty decent amount. So you're gonna try to get your defensive backs on the field a decent amount, but seems about right to me. Edge rusher, more interesting stuff here, I think. Nwosu did actually lead the team in snaps for an edge rusher with 39. And there were a lot of complaints about him in the postgame, I found. A lot of people being critical of Nwosu, which he doesn't look like he has a lot left. I'll say that. I'm not encouraged by what I see right now. He's got 2 games left, and then we have a decision to make this offseason. And right now, that decision is difficult, but I believe fairly clear. And I believe that if he doesn't do something of significance these last 2 games, that decision won't even be all that hard. But it is interesting that he led the way in snaps. Derek Hall right behind him at 37. And Boye Mafe, again, less than half of the game. My only conclusion here is that he's not healthy. He is probably the best edge player on this team right now. And the fact that he's playing a relatively few number of snaps, I don't know what else to put on it except he's not well. And some people think he hasn't been well since week 2 against the Patriots. So that's part of the problem here. Draymond got even less, 26 snaps, and I didn't hear his name called once the whole game that I can remember. So Draymond Jones clearly being phased out here, but we need him right now. Right now, we need him to at least play some snaps, and hopefully before now and the end of the season, between now and the end of the season, he does something. But clearly being phased out, even with Mafe seemingly hurt, Jones barely plays. Cornerback. Witherspoon played the whole game. I think Woolen played the whole game except the first drive or very close to it. A lot of people were asking about it yesterday, so I don't know what Woolen did to get benched. Some people think he was out clubbing the night before the game. Maybe that. There may have been something private inside the internal workings of the team. But it doesn't really matter. In all likelihood, this indicates what I was afraid of, which is that Woolen is not passionate about football the way we want him to be to realize his potential as a football player. And I would go so far as to say that we as a team need to mentally move on from the idea of him being the player that we were hoping after his rookie season. There's just something not there. And I don't even think he played all that poorly yesterday. I'm not saying that he was the reason why we lost. But he didn't do anything over the top to redeem himself after what was one of the worst games of his career the previous week. Probably the worst. Trey Brown, 13 snaps, so he checked in for the first time in a few months, or a couple months. Committed a really bad penalty, gave up a touchdown, and basically went home. So he's got to be done here. I can't imagine there's any other consideration here. I don't even know why he was in the game, other than because Woolen missed a chunk of the game. But the thing that was confusing was that he was on the field well after Woolen had come back in. So that's frustrating, right? Because other than the snaps where Woolen was out because he was benched, Brown played 1 snap, and on that snap he gave up a touchdown. Seems like poor planning or something. I don't know what to call it, but it's bad. And Josh Joby, who played a pretty decent game to my eye, 39 snaps, so still plays most of the game, and he guts it out. And safety, we get pretty much the whole game from Love, the whole game from Kobe Bryant. Rayshon, 30 snaps, so close to half the game. And then AJ Finley plays 3 snaps. I don't know when exactly. I didn't notice him on the field, so that's kind of interesting. And that's about it. That's all we got. So nothing too radical here. I do find the edge rotation interesting. And I do find the fact that we clearly only like 3 of our defensive linemen, or 3 of our typical down linemen anyway, enough to actually play them significantly in this game. All right, more videos coming later. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you guys soon. Go Hawks. And yeah, that's the team we're working with in what was probably the most important game of the year. All right, everyone have a good start to your day. Go Hawks.